Darnell, thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm super excited to have somebody who is out of the real estate space, who can bring a completely different perspective on entrepreneurship, to our community. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invite. Happy to spend some time with you. Looking forward to diving in, having some fun together. And thank you as well, Christine.
Absolutely. So I want to just orient our community on who you are and sort of your professional journey and kind of how you serve your community. Can you kind of give us your backstory?
So my background is in graphic design. I've always been a visual artist ever since before I could remember. I know some people don't remember like getting their ears pierced or learning how to swim. Like mine's for sure is I don't remember drawing my first thing, but I remember like recollecting over what I had drawn, but I don't remember the actual act of doing it. So it's been a long time. And now I'm coming over 40 at this point in time. So I've been at it at least since I can remember, like of just always drawing. Background is in graphic design. And then now I operate in the space as a growth strategist and designer. I largely serve creative business owners and non-creative business owners in two different ways, right? And I don't discriminate from like industry, B2C, B2B, anything for the most part. As long as our values align, like I'm happy to help out and just kind of be as much of a wonderkind as I can be and continually learn. I realize now, Christine, that this whole thing is about storytelling. And those who tell the best stories, like they end up winning. And creating that connection, obviously, and really caring about the person that you're trying to serve and reach and attract. When it comes to my non-creative business owners, that's a lot of done for you, done with you. So think brand identity, brand strategy, of course, storytelling, action plans, digital marketing as a whole. And then for my creative entrepreneurs, we have our membership ecosystem called Forge. That's a little over 1 year old now. Basically, Christine, I'm helping folks align and integrate their creative identities with their entrepreneurial ones. I feel like we got the creative in the bag, but it's the entrepreneurial stuff that we constantly, I think, really got to step our game up on. So
my community is real estate agents, mostly real estate professionals, the industry. And, they're generally speaking not on the creative side. They're more entrepreneurial. And one of the reasons I was excited to talk to you was, you talk a lot about creative entrepreneurship and sort of marrying the creative with the entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. When you think about real estate professionals, how would you, I guess, describe or help a real estate professional think about creative entrepreneurship when, they really marvel or they really are skilled at the entrepreneur side, not necessarily the creative side?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. And I think my answer is a bit twofold, Christine. One of them is I would challenge them to think of creativity differently first and foremost. Visuals, branding, colors, color theory, all of those things. I see creativity as broader than that. And I think that it is as accessible to each of us as air is in clean water here in the States, for instance. So I would challenge them to just think of it differently. Like I would reassociate my connotation with that term creativity, resourcefulness for the most part. Okay. Working with the things that you have available at this time, the people who you know and your unique skill set, and remixing those elements is creativity, unquestionably to me. So it can have nothing to do with websites. It can have nothing to do with digital marketing and things. And again, it's just a vantage point. It doesn't mean that it's right or wrong or it's the only thing that it is, but that would be the first thing I would challenge them to think of that. If they are coming at it from more of the graphic design standpoint, obviously that's further defined than just this broad category of creativity. But yeah, anybody can be creative, have creative moments, moments where they need to be resourceful or pivot and things worked out in a unique way, right? So they are reacting to market forces that they can't control, did something cool, and then things worked out in and of itself. I would consider that creativity. I'm definitely thinking of those of us who use our skill sets in unique ways and would identify as creative. But I'm also challenging people who would not associate themselves as creative as saying, hold up, did you, if you had 5 ingredients in your refrigerator and you made a 5-star meal or something with that, that's creative.
Yeah.
Wow. What other word would we put there? Like, I don't know, like good or something? How else would we describe that?
Yeah. Cause when you're saying that, I'm thinking like, every single day when a real estate agent is working on a transaction, no transaction is the same. They all have their unique challenges, and they all have unique, issues that need to be resolved. And our agents are incredible at finding creative ways to solve problems to get, a transaction to closing. So
there you go.
I love that.
Finding creative ways. Right. And if you do it with finesse, Christine, you do it with passion, you do it with your own personality, your own spin on something, that is creative. We can talk about being visually creative. That's design, storytelling, all of these other tiers. But creative, oh man, it's so accessible to us all. And I bet, just as Picasso said, every child was an artist. Every child is an artist. The problem is how to remain one as an adult. And it's a good metaphor for life of just experimenting, testing things out for yourself, getting your own data. Real estate agents themselves, I think that any industry, but especially, when you're dealing with people, of course, and families and emotional decisions, logical decisions, things that are drawn out, things that are very intimate. You really have to be digging into your toolkit to come up with ways and be resourceful as you can to provide your client with the outcome that they're looking for.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so let's stay on that sort of creative strategies point. So here's the deal. There are 1.5 million real estate agents in the United States.
Okay.
And everybody looks the same, everybody sounds the same, everybody's doing the same things, everybody's seeing what agent A or agent B is doing and feeling sort of insecure or inadequate, or wondering if they should be doing those things too, comparing themselves to other agents. Can you give us, what do you think that an agent should do from a creative strategy perspective to differentiate themselves in this crowded market?
Yeah, that's a great question.
How can they?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I will preface what I'm about to say as saying that, like, I'm a person who definitely thinks outside the box. And my whole kind of philosophy with things is like, don't chase the trend, chase the void instead. And by that, like, that would be like the polar opposite of what you said that everyone else is doing. Okay, I'm seeing what Christine is doing. And I got, I'm looking at her. If we were 2 students in a classroom, I'm looking over to see what test she's putting, and I'm putting the same thing so that we can get the same results. Like you said, everybody's doing the same things. So I think that the bravest thing that you could do is to find an underserved segment of your audience, observe them, care about them, solve their problem better than anyone else, and corner that market space and become known at being extraordinary, Christine, at that one thing. Yeah. Because in every single industry, including real estate, you're going to have these underserved pockets, these small little spaces where it's just like, yeah, they're underserved. And it can be underserved in so many different ways. So to look at those things and say, well, hold up, I've heard this problem enough. I'm qualified. I'm suited to solve this. Why don't I direct some of my energy in this space and become known as the go-to person that excels at this for real estate, or for people looking for homes, or those looking to sell commercial? So it's about being hyper specific, I would say, and going where those voids are, those little pockets. It's easy to chase the trend and do what everyone else is doing. But one thing about being creative, I think that is part of the price of admission, is originality. Obviously they got that, you got that saying, good artists copy, great artists steal, or something like that. And that's a cheeky way of looking at it. But I think there's so much pride in originality. And thinking of things in a new way. You don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel, but simply approaching things from a different insight of saying, well, man, a lot of us real estate agents are doing the same thing. Well, there are 300 something million people in the United States or something alone. And a lot of them are going to have some of the same quarrels that are not being solved by real estate agents, just as an example. I would think trust would probably be somewhere, very high on that list. Yes. Oh, how do I know that this person that's trying to sell me this home isn't just trying to get this 6% commission or something, just as an example, and they don't really have my needs or something set in mind. And so the quicker that you can lower that trust barrier between you and that person, do things unique or run events or keep in touch with them, even when the transaction is finished. So all of the things that happen between the big transactions, for instance, and all of the creative things that you could do in that space to be top of mind. Yeah. It's so much ripe for opportunity there. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And I think, what you're saying about using your own voice, I think is really important too, because the way you do something is going to be different than the way I do something. And the way you handle a challenge for that specific niche will be different than the way I would handle it. So you actually said two things that I think are really important. One is, and I teach this all the time, which is really understand who your client is, who your dream customer is, and go after serving their needs. And I think that that's one area where real estate agents they're afraid that they're going to lose other opportunities. They want to be able to serve everyone. But when you dial in on your dream client, you said this, you become known for something, and you can next level your service to them because you're just so intimately, you know them so intimately. Any thoughts on, can you kind of dive into sort of that niche or that like dream client a little bit more, and tell me how you approach serving your dream client?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say that if that's not something that especially to our listeners and viewers, if that's not something that in terms of like who you should serve or who your ideal target audience should be, then I think you have to basically get curious. And I don't know if curiosity can be taught, but what can be taught is to go out and go in new spaces that you are not traditionally in, and start to listen to the things that are coming up constantly over and over, Christine, because people are very vocal about the things that they don't like, less so about extraordinary service, for instance. I was reading a study that it's crazy, Christine, like 7 to 10 times more likely to complain than to like congratulate, just as an example. So there's a lot of that happening, both online and offline. And so to just be an observer, see, well, what are these same things that keep coming up? And am I growing an affinity for like recognizing this person's issue? And do I care? Am I related to it in any way? Do I maybe have a friend or a relative who has gone through something similar? And I can resonate with this. I can empathize. Because that's another degree that starts to change stuff. It could, because then, you don't have to be your own target audience, but when you can begin to empathize, and then you say, well, hold up. Yeah. I care about this and I can solve it. And or I got a team, I can put together a team that does. Like, now you're starting to get on to something. That's how you start to define who it is that you should be serving, rather than just theorizing it. You got to go out into some new spaces and just be an observer. You don't need to go in there trying to solve any problems at this point. You're just listening. And if they're not talking, Christine, then we have to get better at asking the questions to extract from them what they themselves can't even articulate what they need. Yes. And we have to become better problem solvers. We have to say, okay, well, these are the common denominators that keep coming up. What are they really saying? Because not everybody's going to be forthcoming. Not everybody's going to want to talk to you. So even when things get tense or something, it's just like, oh, that's a nerve. That's hitting a nerve there. There's an opportunity. Every obstacle has an equal opportunity to it, So it's like this gumbo of empathy, of curiosity and observation And as all of that starts to collide in there, and then it'll start making sense to you. You say, well, I care about what Christine has. And she knows a bunch of other people in her circle who all have the same problem. And nobody is addressing this. Nobody is addressing this in a unique way or in a new way, or this thing is ripe for some innovation, just as an example. There's so many different ways to play with that. And it's our job as the service providers to go in and extract what we need from them, because people aren't going to tell you how to build your business. And they certainly aren't articulating things in the way that you and I would as service providers. It's just certain psychological triggers. If you explain a problem to me, Christine, right now while we're talking, and I repeat that problem to you, it lets you know that you're being heard, that I wasn't distracted, and we're starting to associate and build connection with one another. And when that starts happening, that snowball just keeps going down. So the whole thing is about, who are you curious about? Who do you care about? And if you don't know who that is, then you got to get into some new spaces to start experimenting and seeing, well, okay, yeah, again, who am I passionate about? And am I uniquely suited to solve their problems using my existing skill sets? And can I perhaps get a team around me so that we can go on and solve this?
Oh my God, I love this. I love the whole gumbo analogy. I wrote down, be curious, ask the right questions, have empathy, and observe. Go after the void, not the trend. I love that. So, it totally makes sense. And one of the things that I love about it is you're saying what we always preach, right, in our business, but in a completely different way. And so I love just your perspective on it. So, okay. Give me like 3 ways you go about doing that. Like, I can already tell one way you do it. You have said my name like 4 or 5 times already. So you're like, that's how you're engaged. You're, with another human, you're always saying their name, which I think is brilliant. So give me some other strategies. Like, what are a couple other strategies that you use to sort of, be curious, observe, get the right, extract the right information so that you can best serve?
People will open up and they like talking about themselves if you give them the floor. But to be genuine at it, you have to actually care about the person that you're speaking with. I think proactively, the objections a person might have before giving me the data that I need to build a product, just as an example. I proactively think about that. Every reason in the book that they would be talked out of this. And I try to combat those right off the gate. So I look at how people come at me about stuff, or when they're trying to get something from me, or if they are just cold pitching me hardcore, or they haven't even taken the time to actually look at my LinkedIn profile. Like, you can tell it's either AI generated, or it's going out from a virtual assistant, or it's just mass communication. All of those are DOA right on the spot. So I know I can't be doing any of that stuff, because even I don't respond to it as someone who's pretty critical about stuff.
Yes.
So I think about what would work on me. What would work on me as a deep thinker, as a person that tries to make decisions with intent. And I say, well, what would need to happen? I need to make it easy. So it can't just be, Christine, can you hop on the call with me? I like to offer you 2 or 3 options. Hey, we can hop on the call on Wednesday at 10 o'clock. Or if you prefer to correspond asynchronously, here's a 3-question survey. And to thank you for your time, I'm happy to let you beta test what I'm thinking of doing. I'm going to incentivize you as well, because I appreciate your time. I incentivize you, I give you options, and I make it super easy for you to give me data. And then the last one is to be personal and personable.
Mm-hmm.
When you engage with people and use your manners and you appreciate them and you show that up front without even offering value, because maybe they might not think that they have a problem. They might not articulate that way. So it would be presumptuous for you to even present a solution when they haven't even responded to your your first outreach, just as an example. So it's just using all of this in once. And then finally, just as you said, when I'm calling you by name, I'm talking to one person versus a lot of people. So if your outreach is already coming at me like it's a mass email and you are talking to many people, and you can tell that you are, again, it's DOA. I don't even give it, Christine, the dignity of a response.
Yeah.
It just goes to ignore. And that's the dreaded space, is a person doesn't even respect your outreach enough to even respond and say, this is bad. Like,
Yeah.
this is really bad and you need to stop doing it. I just ignore it.
Yeah.
So, because we ain't got time for that. We ain't got time for that. So we got to cut through that noise and treat people as people.
Yeah.
Show them that you care. And when you give them the floor, as they say, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. And when you're talking about, for most of us, the largest, financial investment of your life, and, the biggest, one of the biggest stressors outside of that is just moving. And, it can be highly emotional. Most people are moving for an emotional, reason. There's some kind of change happening in their life. You absolutely have to show up and show that you care. You can't have it be just a transaction, for sure. For sure. As we start to wrap up here, I guess as it relates to creative entrepreneurship, because I just love that term so much.
Nice.
What are 3 things you want to leave our community with today?
Well, I hope I dropped some gems on y'all already,
You
but
did.
because because those are the big ones. But if there was anything else outside of those, you said 3 things that I want people to know relative to creative entrepreneurship. I would definitely go back to that first one that we talked about, Christine, in terms of I challenge you to think of creativity differently. Maybe consider replacing the word creative with just resourceful or remixing or repurposing, right? These are some different ways to work with your existing things. Creative entrepreneurship. Also, I challenge people to say, well, why can't you have both? We sometimes think about like having your cake and eat it too, for instance. Can you have the creative and thrive at what you do? And I definitely believe that the answer is a resounding yes. But I don't think that there's any wrong or right way to do it, that we should be able to have joy and fun and play with the work and be paid whatever you believe that you're worth and whatever the market is telling you that your stuff is worth. And if it's lower than that, then we have to demand better. Christine, we also have to bring these conversations out and talk with our peers as well too, and kind of shift the paradigm if things aren't where you like them to be. But absolutely, like if that's not something that a person has attained, because here's the thing, I don't buy that you gotta not like your clients or not like the work that you're doing and be an entrepreneur. The whole reason that we did this is because there was agitation in traditional employment. Mm-hmm. So if we're gonna go after the elusive time and freedom that the dream of entrepreneurship is designed to get you towards, I'm always thinking, Christine, about the joy, the fun, and never having that be at the sacrifice of what I earn. These 2 things should not be mutually exclusive. So I challenge the people to think about that. Okay, and I think the final thing is just curiosity and empathy. I don't know that these 2 things can be taught, but just as I mentioned before, those things will start arising in you, and you can spark up curiosity and empathy by getting in new spaces that you are not currently in. If you don't have it, if you don't know what you are passionate about. Obviously, realtors and such are going to be passionate about those things. But as we have discussed during this, okay, maybe they don't have a specific audience in mind, or maybe they're just thinking too broadly in terms of like demographics. But, you've probably heard of psychographics as well. Like we should be able to know our target audience as well as we know a friend. If we were introducing them at a party to someone, to know that much about them, where they shop, like what they are, what their personal status is, their relationship status, like all of these things, and even give them a name. And when we know them to that degree, like we are locked and loaded, and we know exactly who we're in business for, and we grow with them. Yeah. So those would be like the big 3 things that I would like leave people with, I would say.
Awesome.
Yeah, those would be the big 3. And I'm gonna give them a bonus. I'm gonna give y'all a 4th one, which is, and I don't hear this enough, of thinking about your target audience on a timeline. We often think about them like in one way at a certain time. So when we build products, like for instance, in my industry, we're often thinking about, okay, well, I got to have a lead magnet that is for people buying their first home, just as an example, but not really anything else to go along with them on that timeline journey. And what is your next thing for them? What's that breadcrumb trail that you're leaving? Because your target audience is one thing, but they got a whole life cycle. There's a lot of years up in that thing. So all the way from aspiring homeowner to empty nesting on their way out, like maybe going to hospice level, all of the stuff that could happen in there and all of the opportunities, Christine, between the big transactions to stay top of mind. I challenge people to be thinking creatively about that stuff. Because the real estate agents who do that with me, like I remember them. I'm like, man, they still keep in touch. This transaction happened 10 years ago and they don't have to do that, but I'm still on their list. They still message me and I'm just like, this is huge. I'm never going to forget them. They got my loyalty. They earned it. I'm going to continue to go back to them because they stayed in touch after the transaction. And I think that's what counts, no matter what industry that you're in. What's your like your game about when it's not the big holidays, when it's nothing seasonal going on, no Black Friday, no big transactions? What are you doing with your target audience member in between there to stay top of mind, to let them know that you care?
Yeah, love that. Love that. All right, Darnell, finish this sentence. Know, like, trust is.
Know, like, trust is an essential in building business and building branding and building loyalty. Without it, you have nothing. Without it, you will be in the price competition versus the qualitative competition.
Yes.
So if I don't know you, like you, and trust you, DOA. So, but if I want that from those I seek to attract, I'm keeping that top of mind and saying, how do I become the straightest line between them not knowing anything to being someone that they know, like, and trust? What's the straightest line? Not the wiggly, windy one, the straightest line, the most efficient path, and lowering that trust barrier for them so that they don't got to leap over that hurdle too much. It's low. They can just walk right across it. And to do that, I think that the answer is to be as proactive as possible about addressing objections before you're called out on them. And when you do that, they say, well, oh, Christine is off the chain. I look on her website and everything that I had a problem with every other real estate agent is addressed in chronological order. It is organized for me. And that's someone that I want to work with. Like, how do I book a call with her right now?
Love it. Love it. Darnell, how can people find you?
Yeah, so y'all can learn more about me at darnellbrown.com. But that's my main site. And I do have a gift for those watching, listening. And that is going to be at darnellbrown.com/amplify-your-time. So this, it's something I came up with that gives people basically 3 frameworks for amplifying time in their creative business. And as we determine, everybody can be creative. You can be. It's like that Gusteau thing from the Ratatouille movie, like everyone can cook. I definitely believe that everyone can access creativity, maybe not 100% of the time. And so that's what I have for people. And I would probably just send them there, actually. Yeah, just one place, one thing to do. Check it out, download it. And that's my gift to you.
Awesome. So darnellbrown.com/amplify/your/time. Correct.
Instead of slashes, they're dashes.
Oh, dashes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
See,
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I said that. Okay. And we'll definitely have that in the show notes for sure. Oh my God. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been great talking with you.
Thank you as well. And I appreciate your excellent questions. And like I said, you're taking notes and stuff. And I'm just like, oh man, I really enjoyed this. And it was really, really good to talk about this in this context for this specific audience. And I hope that they found value in it.
Absolutely.
And maybe I'll see them around.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Darnell. And thank you all for listening. If you're listening or if you're watching us on video, Make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. And if you're listening, give us a 5-star rating. Give us a review. It surely helps us in the rankings. 5-star. And we'll see you here next time. Thank you so much, everybody. Ciao.
Ciao.